Yes, it's a Monday, the 23rd of September, 2013. Autumn is upon us. And who is this guy behind the camera? Is it the dog? I'm finally back. We got a whole lot to talk about here on a Monday morning, the 23rd. Looking Major League Baseball, talk some NFL. We're going to talk about those cheaters from the Michael Waltrip race team. We're going to talk about a host of other things and talk about a host of other events as they come to my foremind. Let me tell you something, folks, and at the end of the show, I'm going to salute my mother, who unfortunately passed about 18 days ago to this date on September the 5th. I'll talk about Mom, who we lost on September 5th. So we'll do that at the end, and a special lady like all of our moms have been. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Weber This Week. Yes, it is Weber, and my name is Harold, and maybe I need to introduce myself and give you my Social Security number. First off, kudos to Jim Senecropi, the owner, proprietor, and the director of our show here. He's been so good to sitting the last few weeks. Of course, I was off Labor Day, which we would expect to be off, but I had to take off the next 2 Mondays because of personal reasons. But it's good to be back in the chair, and I want to thank our great sponsors for continuing to support our program. But let's talk about the world of sports, and let's get right to it. SU football, of course, Syracuse now 2-1. They are off this week. Scott Schaefer's team is, and then, of course, they welcome third-ranked Clemson, who probably will remain that way as they get ready to come to the Dome. I am mindful of the fact that Syracuse defeated a number one team, Nebraska, icons ago. Syracuse has got
look that unstoppable.
Yep.
And so hopefully the Dome will be packed on 2 Saturdays from now. By
the way, I said they were 2-1. They've actually been 2-2, losing to Penn State, Northwestern, and beating Wagner, and, of course, Tulane. Of course, my standard joke on Wagner is nothing personal against SU, but that was Robert Wagner's family reunion. You know how you go out in the back of the lawn on Thanksgiving Day as the moms prepare the dinner and you and the family go out in the back? You've done that, right, Jim? Play a little football, getting ready for the big feast. That's what reminded me of Wagner coming to the Dome. I know everybody, these teams like Wagner picks up a nice check coming to the Dome. Don't get me wrong. This is not my first rodeo. But what does that do to a football program? Losing by 75 and 80 points? I don't know. I guess it's part of the culture of the NCAA to allow this to happen, but it's sort of sad. So we don't know how good Syracuse is. I think personally, yes, Syracuse probably can beat anybody if they got that run and gun, if the crowd gets into it at the Dome. And if you don't have a sellout with Clemson coming to town, then you obviously don't follow SU football. It'll be interesting to see. Both teams now will gear up for that big showdown coming up a week from next Saturday. So we'll have to wait and see. Let's talk about Major League Baseball. Good morning. This is Weber This Week on the 23rd of September. Hope you're having a great Monday, and boy, is it getting chilly. You know, I badmouth the Cleveland Indians. I got to go kudos and apologize for taking shots at them, calling them the mistake on the lake. They got a very good shot of being that wild card in the American League. Yes, they do. All the years I badmouth those Cleveland Indians, Jack Fiorelli and Mr. Bell and company, I got to eat crow on them. I also got to eat crow to Mike Cotillo and the Pirates and Bill Owen. All the years I badmouthed the Pirates, having never had a winning season in something like 21 years. They're right in it, baby. They're going to get into the playoffs. They obviously got a winning record, so I got to eat crow on the Pirates. But, you know, having worked at the Thruway for 11 and a half months now, I see a lot of Yankee paraphernalia come through the Thruway. They wear those jerseys and those hats. I don't see their Yankee underwear, thank God. But, you know, I think it's time. A few weeks ago, I predicted on this show that you could put a fork in them for playoff potentiality. I don't see them making it. I don't think that's an outrageous prediction on my part.
Cleveland, right? Cincinnati Reds.
Oakland's playing good?
Yeah, it's the Rangers are back. It's a level playing field,
yep.
More so like the NFL has been. I wonder if maybe the steroids have something to do with it.
I don't know.
Because so many guys, bulked up, and now they're cleaned up the game, and the guys who were the best at using steroids got the biggest contracts and played for the Yankees or the Dodgers. So, and
I got to tell you something, as they go to the offseason with the Yankees, and I think they're done. I really do. I mean, mathematically, they still have a glimmer of a hope. It's like betting on a 500-to-1 horse, though. I don't like my a grounder. Why? I'm no Harvard graduate. You all know that. But why are you coming home? The ball is hit hard. You look over, you see the kid grab it. You stay put. You only got one out, Jim, with 2 men on, the guy on third with 1 out.
Right.
He comes home, he's a dead duck. Yankees never get it. And then, of course, they try to score the tying run, and a great throw by the left fielder nails Robinson Cano at the plate. Good night, Irene. Game, set, match. But the celebration about Mariano, superb, well-deserved. Pettit got a little bit of kudos, but it was a Mariano Rivera day. I'm always of the opinion that when they have the Hall of Fame voting in a few years with Mariano, if there's any writer out there that doesn't give him first ballot consideration, they should take him out and shoot him on on the top of a bridge here and just let him fall to the thruway, because I find it amazing. What an amazing career the Sandman Mariano Rivera has had. A class guy, Jimmy, no controversy. Yeah, he had 3 straight blown saves this year, so he's not infallible. But what an amazing pitcher.
Yeah, there's not many
great
professional athletes that will get the type of respect that he gets at opposing ballparks. Even Fenway, they give him standing ovations.
Exactly.
And I think it's because, he's unassuming. He
Class
goes
guy.
about it, does his thing. If he blows a save, he comes back the next day. It doesn't let him bother him. Really, it's tough to gauge relievers over the lifetime of baseball like you do for other positions because relievers only came about like in the early 70s, late 60s. And but he's clearly the best reliever ever. And then you got to ask yourself, okay, can a relief pitcher be MVP? Is he one of the best pitchers of all time? Period.
Yeah.
And I think he is. I mean, for that length of time that he did it, and it's going to be a shock to the system next year. Girardi did a great job with this year's team. I don't think he could have got much more out of him, but next year is going to be a nightmare for Yankee fans.
And I got to think, by the way, a little historical data, if you didn't hear it on the Yes Network over the weekend, Mariano almost was not a Yankee for long. In 1996, they were pondering a trade to send Mariano from the Yankees to Seattle to the West Coast for a guy named Felix Furman. A trade that never did happen at the 11th hour, but it was strong consideration, to move Mariano Rivera to Seattle in 96 for a guy named Felix Furman. He came up, had a garbage plate at Colburn Park in Newark, and then he was out of baseball. It's pretty amazing if you think about it. And by the way, I've talked about Derek Jeter, one of the all-time greats, certainly should be a first-ballot Hall of Famer likewise. I tend to think, Jim, maybe it's not a bad move to say goodbye to baseball as well. He's not a spring chicken. He's on the DL now about every 3 weeks. He gets injured with that leg or that foot or that ankle. And I think hopefully that Derek during the winter will think about it and toss the towel in as well and go out on top. I don't want to see him hang around and, play 40 games a year.
Yeah, and it's
I hate to see it.
A little bit of the steroid era made us forget that when you hit 40, you're done as a professional athlete.
Pretty much.
And whether that's baseball, the only exception might be golf, but any of the major team sports, nobody can play past 40. Very, very rare, let alone an everyday Major League Baseball player. So it's the same thing with Jeter. A new era is coming to New York, and they're going to have a tough time having a better record than the Mets next year.
And that's a scary thought.
It'd be like 1986 all over
By
again.
the way, I would hope the Yankees make some drastic moves. I know everybody's excited about A-Rod hitting a Grand Slammer, leading the major leagues in baseball history for the most Grand Slammers. I buy that.
24 of them.
But you know what, folks? Nobody remembers before that Grand Slammer, he was 1 for 28. You're paying this guy $27 million a year. Yeah, the Grand Slammer ignited the crowd, but I'm not convinced that the guy should stay with. I mean, I know the hearing's going to be in another month or so we may not have to worry about him next year anyways. And I think they got to make some drastic changes. I think Jabba should be released. Jabba Chamberlain is just a misfit with Yankee pinstripes. Yeah, don't tell me about when he first came into the Yankees when he was throwing 98, 100. I understand that. He was getting batters out. Guess what, folks? Major League Baseball hitters can catch up with a fastball. You can wind up and throw at 99, and you'll get it by some of these guys. But, Jimmy, sooner or later, they'll catch it, and they'll hit it out of the park. Jabba Chamberlain is a disaster, and I don't know why they continue to keep him on that squad. If I was a Yankee organization and a management crew, see a job. I'd get rid of him. Maybe he's got some trade value, but he's not certainly a plus for the Yankees. They got to make some drastic changes.
Pettit's gone. Andy Pettit's gone.
Yeah, Andy Pettit's gone. So, Nunez, lousy fielder, pretty good bat, but they got a lot of decisions to make with that team, and we'll have to wait and see what happens in the world of Yankees. But if you're a Yankee fan, I think you're adios amigo.
Early prediction, who's going to win the World Series?
Early prediction, World Series. I'm going Dodgers.
Yeah, it seems like that would make sense.
And I like the Dodgers.
It might be the first time we get to see Yasiel Puig kind of get introduced to the world at large.
Exactly.
And I like that pick. But I have a feeling that, I don't know why, but Reds, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, one of those teams this year might sneak in and, make a little history.
This is Weber This Week. And one thing about baseball that people are forgetting, Don Mattingly was hours away from being terminated by the Dodgers when they had a 5 or 6 game losing streak a couple of months ago. He was a weekend away from being axed. Now they're talking about him being manager of the year in the National League.
Thank you, Yasiel Puig.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Amazing story. People are forgetting this. Mattingly was hours from being fired. The fans were up in arms. The attendance wasn't very good. They were going nowhere fast. And all of a sudden they turned it around, and it's pretty scary how that all turned out. Let's turn my attention now and Jim's attention to the NFL. Well, a lot of things certainly have happened. What about the poor Giants? They looked really inept yesterday. I know our buddy Tommy Coughlin, with the loss of his brother, a tragic death happening a week or so ago, John, a.k.a. Sliver. And I'm sure Tom will be up in the area for the wake and the funeral, which I know was scheduled for the next couple of days. What a terrible loss. I knew John way back when, in the LaBelle's days up in Waterloo. But, we think about football and sports being important. It's not as important as losing a family member, obviously, to a tragic death. So our prayers are out to Tom and his whole family, which I know all of them. So I send my condolences to the Coughlin family. But as far as his job as head football coach, where he takes it very seriously, there's a lot of questions, a lot of issues with that team. I mean, you talk about inept. Carolina just drilled them, and they could have scored 60. It was embarrassing. And Eli Manning's got a lot of detractors all of a sudden, but I don't think anybody could throw the ball if you don't have more than a couple of seconds. And those defensive guys from Carolina were in on top of Eli. Seemed like every time he was going to pass the ball. So give credit to Rivera and his coaching team for coming up with a defense that just totally befuddled the Giants. But the Giants looked lost, Jim.
The defense I couldn't understand. The offense, the Giants can't run the ball.
Yeah.
And that's how they do it. They power running game. It sets up the play action pass. It sets up everything they do. And apparently when that's not working, even the defense gets a little flustered by it because they're maybe out in the field more. But what I was most shocked with was the Giants secondary and the defense as a whole against a Carolina team that has
just horrible.
Hasn't been putting up a lot of points so far in the first 2 weeks.
Pretty scary.
So it's not going to get better. I don't see it getting better.
Let's run quickly down the games and some comments. How about Tennessee and San Diego? Tennessee comes back. San Diego once again cannot hold on the lead late in the fourth quarter. Minnesota loses, and I got to give kudos to you Cleveland fans. I badmouth you Browns every week for the last several years. How about that shocking win in Minnesota? Nobody predicted it. New England still doesn't have their offense triggering, but they limited Tampa Bay to 3. You wonder how long Shiano will be in Tampa Bay as the coach out of Rutgers. You wonder how long that marriage will last, because I'm sure their fan base is not thrilled. Houston gets buried by Baltimore, led early, but it was all over. Dallas with a great win at home against St. Louis. The Saints finally showed what they're made of. They ran it up against Arizona. How about the Skins, huh? Washington, RG3, healthy. Goodbye, Irene. Washington losing at home to Detroit. By the way, according to the stats, we believe it's Detroit's first time ever winning in Washington. Detroit goes in there to beat the Skins. RG3 to 3 stands for 0-3. And by the way,
guy though had a ball dropped in the end zone. He guy caught it for a touchdown. They called it a touchdown. Then they reviewed it, and the ball hit the ground.
I did see that.
Should have caught that one.
By the way, in NFL history, we always like to talk about historical data on this show. First time ever in the National Football League history, Giants Skins opening up 0-3, both of them. First time ever. How about
AFC
Green Bay?
East and NFC East are terrible divisions.
Yeah.
Like
Horrible.
the AFC East, the Bills are in.
Yep.
Jets. Miami is probably going to win that division.
Yeah.
Don't think New England is
that good.
The same team that they have been in the past. I just think that division's weak, and I think the NFC East is weak too. Giants, Eagles, Cowboys, Redskins. Come on.
And how about Green Bay? Had a lead, blew it, self-destructed. Cincinnati wins at home, down 14. Carolina destroys the Giants. How about Miami? Give Miami credit. They trailed all the way through that game, pulling it out against Atlanta in the waning moments. San Fran laid an egg out in West.
Shocking.
Kaepernick, what's going on with that team? They got destroyed by Indian Luck. Amazing. Seattle, by the way, if you are a Vegas visitor and you have friends out there that can place bets legally, and you were worried about giving 20 points,
don't worry,
which is an incredible line, bingo, you won by 28. So much for the odds makers not knowing what they're doing in the world of sports.
They should have made it. They should have made the line 25.
Yeah. And the Jets in Buffalo, the Bills, I love picking on you Bills fans. Yes, you're 1-2. I think it's bye-bye. And Jim pointed out a good thing. The Bills used to not have to worry about Miami. Miami's playing great. Where are the Bills? Last place. Here we go again. Can you say 14 years and 9 years? Not saying it's over yet, but they got Baltimore coming up next week. That looks like another L.
E.J. Manuel looked young.
Yeah.
Last week.
And Pittsburgh, Jim, what's going on with the Steel City? Those fans are going ballistic. They give up 42. The Bears.
Jeez, what are we talking about today? We got the Steelers, the Yankees, the Giants, all these great organizations are
falling
just
flat on their face. And by the way, tonight, if you're into sleeping early, and I usually go to bed about 9:30, tonight will be no exception. Why will I be going to bed at 9:30? Because tonight's Monday Night Football has the Broncos and Peyton Manning against my Raiders. The line is 15.5. I'll be asleep by 20 after 9. My recommendation to you, you be asleep as well, because that game will put you to sleep, as the Broncos will be expected to roll over the Weber Raiders. We got a few more topics to talk about. We're probably going to run past 10 o'clock, but I haven't been here in a few weeks, so we have a few more topics to talk about. We'll get to them. But let's hear from our great sponsors to make this show possible. Here on a Monday, the 23rd of September, I'll be back with more. Welcome back, everybody. It's a dog with another edition of Weber this week. I've been off for a few weeks. It's good to be back in the chair. Hope you're enjoying the show, wherever you're checking me out. Let's go with some other topics that I have to give you my opinions on. This NASCAR, how about Matt Kenseth? Is he like a daredevil? That guy's kicking butt, man. He is running away with the chase. He wins in New Hampshire yesterday. And I must have a quick comment on Michael Waltrip Racing. Michael Waltrip, of course, his team did a little finagling at Richmond, the last race before the chase began. Some illegal maneuvers, some illegal tactics, asking his driver to come in for a pit stop when he shouldn't have, asking his driver to make believe he spun out to bring out a caution. NASCAR investigated, found guilty, threw Truex out of the race. Martin Truex, one of the drivers. Sad story, though. You know how important sponsors are. We know for the sports show. Can you imagine? Napa, who Michael Waltrip did those spots for years on television. And I got to tell you, he has a gift for doing commercials on television. I thought he was a superb spokesperson for Napa. Napa gave that team, his team, Michael Waltrip, $18 million to sponsor Waltrip's car, the Napa car. And oh, by the way, Napa called Michael the other day. They're gone. Adios. And I think it has to do with the collusion, the bad tactics, the bad moves by Michael. Napa wants to wipe their hands with any relationship of Michael Waltrip. So 2 years contract, they're bailing out of it. Forget $18 million. It's a $30 million loss. Speculation is they will be adios amigo from the world of racing. Nobody who follows racing can figure out how Michael can come up with the resources to keep his team going. I hate to be this vindictive, but he deserves it because what he tried to pull at the Richmond race, and sponsors do not want to be aligned to that type of activity. If you don't believe me, call 1-800-PAULA DEAN. And by the way, I get upset over certain things that just drive me crazy. In college football, Jim probably have seen this happen. There's rules now to protect your head, brain damage. I understand the reason. I understand the rationale. Let me tell you something. I have no problem if Jim goes above somebody's shoulders and hits him with his hands and tries to decapitate the guy's head. Absolutely. You get 15 plus the individual gets thrown out of the game. But let me tell you something. I'm of the opinion, and I'm a Minders graduate, if I hit somebody and the person upstairs, there's a quote-unquote an official who rules whether Harold Weber or Jim Senecropi gets ejected for that violent hit. The flag comes out. They go upstairs. Recently, a player got accused of this. The flag came out. They went upstairs. The official looked at it. They determined he was going for the football. It was not a violent act. It was not a critical act against the individual. He had every right to go for that football, as I did. So they come down to the official. The referee goes on his microphone and says, Jim Senecropi will not be ejected from the game. Perfect. What I don't like, what's the wrong with the 15-yarder? They still marched it off.
Yeah.
Jim, how does that work? I get freed of the violent hit. The official looks at the film, he has the authority, and says that Weber did not intentionally try to decapitate a player. Okay, I'm still in the game.
Call off the flag.
Right.
Yeah.
The guy still marches
penalty.
15, and it sticks. What's wrong with that picture?
It's so
stupid.
Unfair to the defensive players
amazing.
who they got a lot of pressure on them to be physical and to enforce their will on the offense and to make big hits and keep them back. And you can see the way that most of these guys try to hit now that they're purposely making decisions to avoid the helmet-to-helmet stuff. And then, it seems like if it's even close, they're flagging it. But you're right. They go upstairs.
Amazing.
They got to take back the flag.
You got to take the flag back. It's like me getting accused and arrested for burglarizing DA's Liquors. My great sponsor, Amy, hope you don't take this serious. I have no intention of burglarizing your joint. But let's say I got arrested for burglarizing one of my sponsors. All right, I go to trial, right? They find me not guilty, right? Hey, great. But they still send me to prison for 7 years. What? Come on. Am I the only idiot that sits on a sports desk and determines that how can NCAA be so stupid when you get somebody upstairs with the authority to say that the gentleman did not intentionally try to decapitate a player? And I'm all for saying that if he did, toss him. I have no problem with that. But they said he didn't, so they didn't toss him. But the 15 yards gets marched off? I'm sorry, folks. I know I have third-grade education in this brain of mine, but that's stupid. So I had to get that off my chest. By the way, I'm 68 and a half years old. I want to go to Oklahoma State. I got a few. I want to go to Oklahoma State, Jim. That has to be the dream school to go. You pass, no problem. You got booze. You got chicks, and you got money.
You got to be on the football team, though. You got to be an athlete. You got to be an athlete.
It's not a bad gig.
Yeah, no, it's kind of shocking some of the stuff that's coming up there, and again, it just sheds light on the NCAA. This stuff is going on, in a lot of different places, and it gets caught here but not there, and this place gets punished, and this place gets by. Like Miami, the way the NCAA botched that run
and
with
awards.
Your dog.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
9:30 of the day of the event, a 5K day of registration at the gazebo. 10 o'clock, kids run for free. They have a fun run. 10:20, there's a race without dogs. 10:30, there's a race with your dogs. At 11:30, they're having awards. And at 12 o'clock, they're having a pumpkin dog costume parade and contest. So you can pre-register for the 5K at City Hall in Geneva. You can visit the Bark page to the Bark Park page to download a form, www.genevarec.com, or you can call the Geneva Rec at 789-5005. 5005 at 789. So that should be a lot of fun. And I want to pass it on for my daughter Sam, because they're trying to get together a dog park up in Geneva. Quickly moving to the world of golf. I know we're running over a couple of minutes. By the way, Henrik Stenson a couple of, year and a half ago, maybe was 160th in the world. The guy can't miss. Irons deadly, 3 feet away. Even Brad Jones, my friend, can make those putts. Like to pick on my buddy Brad. Henrik Stenson picks up $11.4 million yesterday. $1.4 million for winning the Tour Championship in Atlanta, and plus a $10 million FedEx bonus. How's your checking account doing today? Hendricks is doing quite well, thank you. Tiger played a lousy tournament. The season now is over. They're off next week. Then they have the President's Cup, which is like watching grass grow. We'll kill those people from Africa and the rest of the world. Believe me, we always dominate the President's Cup. We can't win the Ryder Cup. We can dominate the President's Cup. And Jimmy, I had a chance to watch Geneva play some football the last few weeks, even though I've had some situations personally. They look like a dynamite team. My granddaughter Izzy's a cheerleader. I haven't had a chance to check out. I did see Waterloo play. They're young. They're inexperienced. What's your feel so far for area high school football?
Geneva is great. Josh Jackson, running back for Geneva, is probably one of the best runners in upstate New York.
Right.
And then you got Clyde.
Right.
Looks pretty strong. A couple teams that are traditionally strong that lost this weekend, Dundee and Canandaigua, both dropped a game. They're 2-1. Minders is hanging in there. They got pounded by University Prep, but they beat Lions, and it's tough with the smaller school districts for some of these teams to field solid teams. But so kudos to Clyde, who has a great program, even though they're a smaller district, and Geneva's been pretty much a sports juggernaut the past couple of years in basketball.
They're fast.
They're
fast.
Yeah.
I watched that football team, Jimmy. They run and gun. They are quick.
They put up a lot. I can't remember what the final was this weekend, but it was
59-0 or something like that.
There you go.
Amazing.
So.
Yeah. So, well, listen, we went over a couple of minutes. I want to end my show with a couple of comments about my mom. We lost my mom on September 5th, about 18 days ago. She was 92 years young. She had dementia 7-8 years ago. It turned into Alzheimer's, which is a horrible, terrible disease. And I know people may be watching me today, like right now. You may have family members that have been inflicted with that disease. Hang in there. But, I would be remiss if I didn't say that obviously myself and my two brothers share the same wisdom that our mothers are special. I've always been upset with the fact that we celebrate one day a year, call it Mother's Day. My mom, like all moms, was there when I needed it. She kicked me in the butt when I needed it as well. But I remember when I got into this broadcasting gig in the early 70s, I had started doing some play-by-play for some football games, and I was getting a lot of criticisms because I was a nervous wreck in the booth. Now I'm not so much nervous after doing it for 4 decades. But I was ready to give up that gig, and I visited my mother one day, and it was just her and me at the kitchen table, and she looked at me. She said, "Honey, let me tell you this. You have a gift for this. Keep doing it. You'll do it better, and you'll never give up. And the people that are criticizing you can't probably hold a candle to what you can do." I remember her giving me that encouragement. She gave me other encouragements, too. She did give me a kick in the butt when she came from the parent-teachers conference when they were telling her that your son is a disaster in school. He's not very smart. He doesn't apply himself. But that was another session. But Mom always was there for me and my brothers, Bob and Ronnie, and we're certainly going to miss my mother. And I know a term that people don't want to hear when they pass. They're in a better place. I truly believe, and my family agrees with me, that Mom is in a better place. I love you, Mom. You'll never be forgotten by your family. Take care, everybody. That's a look at Weber this week. It's great to be back in the chair. We'll hopefully be back next Monday for another edition. Take care. Have a great week, everybody.